If you ever needed proof that Christmas miracles are actually a thing, I've got two for you. The first, Dr. Nigel Clough, sitting there on Christmas Eve, putting out his glass of milk, asking Santa for a win on Boxing Day. The second, little Nathan Mariah Welsh, aka Nobby Welsh, sitting there on Christmas Eve, writing his letter to Santa, saying, "Dear Santa, I'd love to be a footballer." And then come Boxing Day, footballing talent actually hits Nobby Welsh. Christmas miracles, oh my God, they come true. Let's be honest, after 13 minutes on Boxing Day, not one single Stags fan, even the most optimistic Stags fan, I'm looking at you, Alan Wilson, would have thought that Mansfield Town would have come away with 3 points from Barnsley, and yet a Boxing Day miracle happened. Lewis Reed's first half penalty, Stephen McLaughlin's questionable header, and then Aaron Lewis's fine finish in front of the travelling Stags faithful saw Mansfield Town come from 2 goals down to win at Barnsley 3-2 and lift themselves out of the relegation zone. It could well be the biggest win of the season, steering the Stags with just 11 fit players well away from trouble and hopefully setting them on their way to end the calendar year as they go to Bolton on Monday night in a positive way after all. Come and discuss all of that on the Mansfield Matters podcast. Ho, 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 hello and welcome to the Mansfield Matters podcast, the show for the fans, by the fans, where I've realised it's actually not 1, not 2, but actually 3 Christmas miracles happened on Boxing Day. Yes, Nigel Clough asked for a win and got that. Of course, little Nobby Welsh asked to be blessed with footballing talent. That finally happened. Been a long time coming. And of course, Andy Garner asked to be awarded a penalty. And that happened too. I forgot all about that when I was recording the intro this morning. But hey, how a lot happened on Boxing Day, and we're going to discuss it all over the next hour here tonight. As ever, you're welcome to come and join us in the live feed comments and have your say on your team. We're talking Boxing Day delight. We're talking the defeat against Stockport. We're going to talk a lot more in between as well. We'll have a teensy look ahead to the transfer window, and we'll also look at footballing fan mentality as well. I might have a teeny rant as we go through the show later on. But it's not just going to be me over the next hour. I've lined up 2 Stags fans to join me and talk all about Christmas miracles. The first, a man who has basically asked a question on his name, and that is, can we play them every week? We don't show the names on screen anymore because I can't be bothered. It doesn't sit right when I do it. It's a technical thing, but I'll always read it out and give it a shout out. Can we play them every week, Clive Parkin? We'd love to, wouldn't we?
Absolutely. I've got a great deal of fondness for Barnsley.
Is it the overpriced chicken and chips, or is it just the general journey, or is it the fact that we beat them? We seem to be the only team we can beat.
All the above.
All of the above. I'll go for that. And another man who is joining us tonight, the man full of festive cheer because he's finally seen Stags win. Let's say hello and good evening to James Evans. Good evening, Jim.
Merry Gymnast. Merry Gymnast, like that. Merry Christmas, Craig. Merry Christmas, everybody. Hope you're all okay.
Good to see you as always. Lots to delve into tonight then. We're going to dive straight into yesterday's game at Barnsley first. Clive, like we mentioned earlier, it was one of those which, we didn't see happening, did we? After 13 minutes, I think we all looked at each other and just asked the question, how many? Meaning, after how many goals would we concede? Would we get up and make for an early exit? It wasn't a nice afternoon early doors, was it?
No, it wasn't. It was a strange old day. A remarkable game in so many ways. We looked completely out of it for the first 20 minutes. And in fact, I think what we did particularly well was to hold it to 2 goals during the remainder of the game, of the first half, because another one would have killed us, I think. And they had their chances. But we turned ourselves into a resolute defensive side and took advantage of the few opportunities we created. Can't do better than that.
Jim, after 13 minutes, watching Davis Keeler-Dunn put a ball in the back of the net so routinely like he did, week in, week out, wearing a Mansfield shirt a few seasons ago, were you reaching for the remote, ready to put Home Alone 3 on?
No, I mean, I'd always watch to the end of the game, but I can't say I was surprised. You could have predicted a bad start. But like Clive says, it's important we didn't get 3-0 down. And I'm pleased Davo didn't celebrate, and he made a point of sort of almost apologising to the fans, didn't he? But one thing I say about Nigel Clough's team, it doesn't matter how bad it seems, they're very resilient. They don't collapse. That is a feature of his teams. And you always expect a bit of fight no matter what. No, it's always worth watching, I think.
Well, it certainly was to the end yesterday. That is absolutely for sure. And there was a guy in front of us, Clive, wasn't there, who appeared somewhere during the second half, sat on the step in front of us. It wasn't even a seat. Did ask us whether we could stay or not, to be fair to him. He was definitely full of festive merriment. And he was telling us, wasn't he, that two of his mates that he'd come along with had bet on Barnsley to win 2-0 and Davis Keeler-Dunn to score. Merry Christmas to them.
Yep. Yes, he was a jolly chap. Abundant good spirit and a fair amount of wind. We were relieved when he moved on, I think it's fair to say. The reality of the game is what really matters, of course. I like going to Barnsley for several reasons. One is it's a good stadium. It's quirky. It's old school in some parts and quite impressive in others. There's always plenty of accommodation for away fans, so we're able to, in a relaxed way, buy the tickets we needed. I thought the Stags fans, understandably, were quiet in the first half. Well, certainly after the first goal, but so were they. I can't understand a team like 10,000 tykes there hardly ever open their mouths during the game. Strange atmosphere, and they only really shouted after the goals, and that was it. But we took over in the second half, didn't we? We made a good fist of it. It made an enjoyable, if somewhat surprising game, really, because I never, right until we scored that third goal, I never expected us to get it. And that's the nice thing about football. It surprises you every time. And the other surprise, of course, was the emergence of little Nobby Welsh. He had a decent game in the game before against Stockport, and I thought, there's something in there. It's starting to emerge. And just like a butterfly on Boxing Day, he came out of his chrysalis and he blossomed. And I thought, whilst he's not everything you'd want him to be, is certainly a lot more than he has been. And I think if he carries on developing that way, he'll be a proper part of the team.
Jim, you smile along there at that analogy of little Nobby Welsh.
Yeah, Clough's always shown a lot of faith in him, hasn't he? I think he has got talent. He can do a bit of everything. It's just, for me, he always just wants a bit too much time on the ball. I think it's starting to click now. And let's be honest, we haven't got many other options, have we? So, and he is always fit, so you've got to give him that in a squad of players that aren't. So I think there's a player there. He's just, I don't know, perhaps he's just a bit still raw. Yeah,
there's probably something still to be unlocked with him. Like with a lot of players, to be fair, when they're right, some settle and develop quicker than others. Others need game time to develop. I think without sort of going on a whole conversation about it, it's very similar to Ryan Sweeney. He seems to be settling in a little bit more now. I know there's a few question marks over the second goal, but I can defend that to a degree. We'll come on to that in a little bit. But one thing I want to sort of continue to touch upon, Jim, is yesterday I still am a little bit bemused at how we actually did manage to score 3 goals and how we did come away with a victory. It was just one of those games, wasn't it, where you think, have we won that? Did we win that?
Well, I think Barnsley were terrible, weren't they, to be honest, for what I saw, particularly at the back. And we do always create opportunities. We're just not very good at taking them. I mean, we should have scored 4 or 5, really. But it is what it is, isn't it? I mean, we can do that on our day. We are dangerous when we want to be. But I agree. Can we play them every week? Because I think we've played them 3 times. We've beaten 3 times, haven't we, since we've been promoted?
We need that. I think one of the big questions for me, Clive, and we're going to delve into some comments in just a second, but I'd love to hear people's views on this as well, is I actually, having slept on it, think that could be the biggest win that we've had for a long time for a number of reasons. That could well be one of the most important wins of the season.
I agree. I think it's important because had we lost, we'd have been deep in the relegation quartet. I think it came as a bit of a surprise to everybody, which is always nice. It takes the pressure off on Monday. We don't have to come away from Bolton with anything. I think if we'd lost yesterday, we'd have been absolutely depending on pulling something out of the Bolton game. We'd have gone in really anxious, I would have thought. And I think we can now go into Bolton, providing the players are up for it, we can go into Bolton with some expectation. So, yes, I agree. Looking back on it, it probably will be a very pivotal moment.
Yeah, let's certainly hope so. Keep your comments coming in and have your say on your team if you wish to do so this evening. One person who kicked us off tonight was Simon, who says, we've had some fantastic wins under Nigel and some impressive wins in League One, but yesterday has to be the best considering the run we're on, the circumstances and the lack of resources to call upon. The boys can get a free hit on Monday after this. I would agree 100% with that, Jim. The pressure's definitely lifted for Monday. Like Clive alluded to there, had we lost at Barnsley, going into Monday would have been just...
Yeah, I think it's the pressure's lifted for the Bradford game as well. I think we've played 21 games now, I believe. So we're two games off halfway. Now, 50 points is safety. We've got 26. So if you sort of do the maths, we're a point ahead of the relegation curve with 2 games spare. So I would never call them free hits, but like I say, the pressure's off, and that's only going to help the lads play better. So anything from Bolton and Bradford is a somewhat bonus if you look at it like that. But to be honest with you, Bolton are nothing to fear. I think we can go there, and Rhys Oates is back, isn't he? So that's a plus. He'll be fresh and raring to go, hopefully in a controlled way. We could go there and get something, I've no doubt. But especially being buoyed from yesterday. Bradford, I think, will be tough. I think they'll be tough. Again,
sorry, Jim. Sorry to cut over. I thought you'd finished. I think that's the nature of the Christmas beat a little bit, isn't it, Clive? You know, you play so many games in quick succession. A positive result on Boxing Day can give you that little bit of a hop, skip, and a jump going into, the New Year period. If you look at sort of last year, we beat Peterborough from nowhere on Boxing Day. I know we sort of then went on and lost at Reading. We played relatively okay, but we looked all right in those performances. It just gives you that little bit of energy that you need, especially when you like we are at the minute, which is literally playing with 11 fit players yesterday.
Yeah, I think how you traditionally perform over the Christmas bank holiday period determines your season. And I would say that I enjoy having 4 or 5 games in a relatively short period of time, especially as a good percentage of them tend to be fairly local and therefore much easier to get to. However, and it's a big however, you can't do all those games with 12 fit pros. You just cannot do it. There has to be some resource behind those players. We were at bare bones yesterday, which makes the result even more remarkable. No subs because he didn't feel he could bring anybody on in those circumstances that was on the bench. And I don't blame him for not wanting to bring youngsters on, but he'd obviously got other players he didn't think would add quality at that point. So I just worry now about, how much they can actually achieve without a few people on the bench to take the pressure. I know we've got Oates back, but that's the only positive as far as I can see going forward where available players is concerned, unless we do a bit of business somewhere.
Yeah, that window is opening soon, and we definitely need to look into doing that. We'll have a little bit more of a chat on that later on. First, though, let's go to some more comments. Matt's been in touch tonight and says, glad we were finally awarded a penalty. Should have had another one straight after when their keeper was caught out by Macca. All in all, things worked out and delighted us with the 3 points and the performance. Come on, you Stags. Keeley says, Mariah Welsh had a great game. Ross says, I thought he didn't switch on for the first 10 minutes or so, like most of the others, then came alive. Simon adds, Nigel Clough says he judges the players after 6 months once they've settled down. Mark adds, I don't know if you noticed this, Clive, yesterday. Strange that Nigel came to the fans alone, then went down the tunnel straight after, obviously, Andy Garner, oh my God, did the golden nugget of the post-match afterwards. But so regardless of that, I probably think that Clough had pre-Christmas engagement to get to, maybe, Boxing Day around the mother-in-laws, that sort of thing. What I quite enjoyed was, I don't know whether you should read too much into it, but Clough essentially came over to the fans, didn't he? And was pointing like almost like 11. Was he screaming, we did that with 11 players? It clearly shows that he doesn't trust Kyle McAdam, doesn't want to use the youth. And to be fair, in a game like that, I agree with to an extent. And Dom Dwyer, well, I might as well sat on the bench yesterday because he doesn't trust him, doesn't want to use him. So I think, there was a lot of passion there from Nigel Clough. But I think he was, a relieved man, wasn't he?
Yeah, but the truth is, had he got 3 or 4 seasoned pros fit to go on the bench, he would have used him yesterday, because he must be conscious of the fast turnaround between the games and the stress that puts on the players. I think if those same players plus Oates, if he's fit, on Monday perform as well, regardless of the result, but perform as well as they did yesterday, that'd be a remarkable indication of their fitness and their desire to do the game justice.
Yeah, it certainly would. Keep your comments coming in. My mate Lee Wilson's been in, my former commentary mate, said, brilliant result all the way from Oz. Much needed yellows. Merry Christmas, Wills. Hope you and your family have had a good one out there. I'm sure it gave you a big smile on your face yesterday. It probably would have been what, 3 o'clock in the morning over there, something like that. Madness. Simon also adds as well, Reed's come back into form. Is that because McDonnell and Reed struggled to play together? Jim, this is something which we've had muted conversations about, isn't it?
I've never really seen that. I thought they played pretty well together, to be fair. I mean, when McDonnell's on the pitch, he's all action, isn't he? He wants to run the whole show, doesn't he? Perhaps Reed gets a bit more of the action in the ball when McDonnell's not there, but I think they play okay together. I just think Reed's just coming into a particular purple patch of form. And what you can tell, because he's passing the ball forward a lot more, whereas sometimes one of his little things that annoy me about him is it's just sideways and backwards. But now, the last few weeks, it's been a lot more forward and diagonal, and I think that's a sign that he's in good form. And I love Reed. He's different gravy, isn't he? His command of the ball and his technique. He's a proper footballer. He's not particularly an athlete, but he's a proper footballer. And we don't tick as well on the ball than we can than when he's not there. You sure to me, if he's not there, we don't play at our best with the ball, I always think. And he's key for us, I think.
I think it depends for me, Clive, on the system that we're playing with Reed.
Yeah, I think we've struggled to find the right formula in midfield. And I agree, McDonnell's is a class player and he's got a future in front of him. I'm sure of that. Reed, well, on his day, is as good as anybody we could have on the squad in that position, but he isn't always on it. He's had to be in this last couple of games because it's so much depended on him. But I'm not sure they do work together that well. I think the one thing that people criticise McDonnell for is his rare forays forward. He likes to play sideways and back, which, that's okay if you're set up to be a defensive midfielder. But if you're going to do that, you then got to have somebody who's going to be a bit more strident. Yeah. And I think Reed has had to try and find that in his game. So maybe that's what Jim's alluding to, that he's starting to look forward rather than laterally on the field. And we desperately need someone to do that. And I have to say, going back to our little friend, he's got an eye for a really good forward pass. He doesn't always manage it, but, on the park yesterday, he was as good as anybody at passing the ball to player. I mean, our defenders were very good at passing the ball, but very rarely to our own players. But Mariah Welsh, I thought, showed why Clough has faith in him, I think. He has got an accurate pass. He's a great crosser of the ball. He takes a decent corner. And those are things we haven't had. So that's, I think, why Mr. Clough has so much faith in him.
Yeah.
On the downside, he looks lazy half the time, and that's probably just perception.
Don't forget, he's a young lad. He's living hundreds of miles from home. He's got to deal with all that as well, which does take its toll on a young person, doesn't it? I think you will see when he really settles down. We'll see the best of him. I think you got to give him that slack. I think.
Yeah, I think it just magnifies it, doesn't it? When you've got no players fit and no players available. Look at yesterday. In the last 3 games, we've essentially had 11 players available that Nigel Clough wants to use. Now, I know there's a whole other debate here about, well, we've got other players. We've obviously managed to name an 18 because we've got young players on the bench. We've also got Dom Dwyer, Carl McAdam, etc., as well. But it's all well and good saying that if the manager and the coaching staff don't have the faith in them to use them. And for me, I don't think Nigel Clough has, which is fine, but it's a real tough pill to swallow. And I think what we've got to highlight is actually we've done really well in the 3 games where Rhys Oates has been suspended. The 3 games for me where I judge it where we've had 11 players available that Clough wants to use. I know that we've only got 3 points out of those games or whatever. Is it 3-4 points? Was it AFC Wimbledon one of the games? I can't remember. I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think so.
So to get a point at AFC Wimbledon and a clean sheet, to narrowly lose against Stockport, which to be fair, we have a real argument to say that we probably shouldn't have done. We should have probably got a point in there as well, and then to go and win at Barnsley, having been 2-0 down away from home. I think it's real testament to say that there is fight and vigour in there. But one swallow, Clive, doesn't make a summer, does it? And you've got to really look now and go, we have to address this issue in January. And the issue can't be addressed by just being sitting there and waiting for players to come back and available. We've got to really answer those questions of, do we need to move them on? We were missing, including Oates being suspended, we were missing 10 players over the last 3 games. Kyle Noyle, Jordan Bowery, George Maris, James McDonnell, Regan Hendry, Luke Bolton, Lucas Akins, Joe Gardner, Tyler Roberts. Tyler Roberts is a separate discussion because we'll talk about that in just a minute. But, you look at the other players in there, those that I've mentioned, you think, right, do any of those fall into the category of Dwyer and McAdam, who really, let's be brutally honest, we should get rid of in January to free up wages and other squad slots for players that are going to have more of an impact and more of a use. Joe Gardner's a difficult one because obviously he's having a few medical issues. I think he's actually physically fit, but when he's doing any form of physical exercise, from what I can read from Clough, he's getting headaches or whatever, so he's being checked out properly by Nottingham Forest's staff. Lucas Akins, when he's available, he's available. He will do a job for you, whether you like him or not, whether you think he's good enough for League One or not. It doesn't matter. He's a body, and he's a reliable body, which is clearly what Nigel Clough wants. Luke Bolton, I think we made a massive mistake in signing. I think when he's fit and available, he'll probably silence us a little bit with it. But how long can we wait for a player like that who's spent the best part of 2 seasons out injured? Regan Hendry, park that one. James McDonnell, park that one. George Maris, he's a questionable one for me. I know that he's well loved, and when he does play and does find his form, he can create for us, but he's very few and far in between. And then obviously Jordan Bowery and Kyle Noyle, when they're fit and available, they're in regardless. But I think there's probably 3 or 4 in there, Clive, that we've got to be a little bit more ruthless with and actually be questioning, A, why we're signing them in the first place, and B, if we're going to have this attitude towards them not being good enough, like Clough has definitely put that spotlight on Dom Dwyer, we've got to change that and sort of try and do something to rectify that issue, because we can't just be sitting on squad places and, let's be honest, big wages. I don't see Dom Dwyer being cheap.
Well, we don't know, do we? But our wage bill is one of the lowest in the league, so it's not like we're being profligate with the money. I think what we've got to do is to recognise the dilemma, the phenomenon of having so many players out, not just injured, but long-term injuries. And those players have been key. I mean, the most obvious one is Roberts, because I can go back to the away game at Northampton. We were bossing that game until Roberts got injured, and then we capitulated, and we've really struggled since. So you're not going to get another Roberts. That's the problem. But I think we're bodies short, no question about that, and we are desperately short of somebody with legs to relieve our front runner, because he's working his socks off, and it's to the credit to the lad, but he's getting no support, and I don't think he always gets recognised for the work he's putting in. I'm talking about Evans, of course. So we do need someone, and if it's not to be Tumble Dwyer, and it's not to be the loanee who's getting headaches, then you're right. They ought to be moved on. I don't know what the contractual arrangements with the loanees is, because you've got 2 of the 3 you could safely let go back to Forest, and that would free up 2 squad numbers. Well, no, they're not actually officially squad numbers, are they? Because they're loanees. So there's no reason why you can't recruit 3 or 4 players in January if he wanted to do it. Personally, I don't see it happening.
That's the danger with the loan market, isn't it, Jim? Sometimes it goes well, sometimes it doesn't. 3 players on loan from the same club, you think, right, they're going to be, well suited to playing together. Joe Gardner's, not really played because he's had the injury, but when he has played, he's actually looked like a decent prospect. So do you gamble and hope he's going to be all right? Carl McAdam, I'm sorry, I don't want to speak badly of players. I don't want to, throw players under the bus. I know he's not had much of an opportunity, but when we have seen him, he's been absolutely woeful. I just don't see why we've signed him, especially on that left-hand side. We've got too many options anyway.
Yeah, I think whether you sign someone loan or permanent, it's always a gamble, isn't it? And like Clive says, I'm not sure what the terms are of that loan agreement, whether we can send them back or we're stuck with them for the year. I don't know. But from what I understand with loan deals, if they're injured, they go back to the parent club anyway. So I don't see why you couldn't terminate it. I know you get 5 slots. I'm never quite sure whether it's you get 5 loanees, and that's as in you bring 5 players in over the season, that's it. Or if they go back, do you get that place back? I don't know. But either way, I think whatever happens there, we do need strengthening in January. I know Radford's in town, isn't he? I know it's Christmas. But even if it is permanent, I know, where does he want to be? I mean, we're treading water now as it is. We got away with it last year. We're just about going away with it this year. But all I would say is, even if we pay not the best value you could possibly get by buying in January, it's cheaper to do it now than trying to get back into League One if you get relegated. And for me, the board have got to make a decision, and they're committed to staying in League One and progressing, or God knows what their intentions are. But to me, we've got to get January right, and if it means buying a couple because we can't loan more than another one, then we've got to buy.
And I think
personally,
I agree with that. And do you know what? On the flip side of that is, Clive, as well, I think we've got to sell. I think, it's clear we're a self-sufficient club. That is absolutely abundant. And I have no issue with that whatsoever, because what the Radfords have done is transform Mansfield Town Football Club into something I never dreamt of 15, 20 years ago when we're in those dark days. We've got a stadium to be proud of, a training ground that is, immaculate and punching above its weight. We've got an academy system that is slowly developing. We've got a manager that is entrusted with going somewhere. We're making progress up the divisions, but we're not pumping money at it like other clubs, and we have to be self-sufficient. We sold Davis Keeler-Dunn, when his stock was high and rising. I'll have a little slide rant at that, by the way. I did not agree one little bit with slagging him off yesterday and singing those songs against him. He didn't celebrate when he scored against us. He didn't celebrate when they scored the first. He applauded the fans when he came out and went in at halftime, and came back out and went in at full time again. He wanted to better himself and, move on for a bit more money. I would have done exactly the same in a footballer's short career. And what he actually did for us, his sale, like it or not, helped us to progress up the divisions in terms of stability, in terms of putting that wage budget a little bit more there, because that's what we've spent it on. We've got a new stand from it, and we've managed to stay in League One. And if it wasn't for him in the first place, we wouldn't even be in fucking League One. So to everyone that sang and booed yesterday, I disagree. Anyway, and I agree with Simon. He was class yesterday with his thing. Adam says, sell, ? Who? I've got 2 words for you, and I don't want to see it happen because I think he's a fantastic player for us. Bailey Cargill. We have to look at our sellable assets, and I think Bailey Cargill is one of those players who could play for a number of League One clubs. He could probably play Championship if he pushed himself and applied himself to it. I think we've got 2 or 3 sellable assets in that dressing room, Clive, and I think we need to look at doing it. It's not just DKD, by the way, that we've sold over the last couple of years to fund ourselves. Will Swan, I think we got a bit of money for Ollie Clark along the way, didn't we, as well, when we let him go to Swindon? We have to be a sellable club, don't we?
Traditionally, every club in the lower leagues relied on selling a player or 2 to make their books balance. The world's gone different since the Premiership took over and swallowed all the assets. they don't bother recruiting from the pyramid anymore. They just go overseas and pay a player enormous amounts of money to come and play in this country. And it's destroyed the traditional way of younger players developing their talent in lower league and working their way up to the top. And that has ramifications everywhere you're looking, not at least of which the England team. And I think our club doesn't have many opportunities to sell a player for a capital sum. Davis Keeler-Dunn was a good example of one where it was inevitable he was going to go. He wanted to go because he wanted to improve his circumstances. No one can fault him for that. And the morons that were booing him yesterday, well, we've always had those idiots. And there aren't many of them, to be fair. And they turn out for the away games, the marquee away games. They'll be at Notts County when we play them. They'll not next season, because they might come up, won't they? When we play the Chesterfields and Notts Counties or Rotherhams, all the local teams, these lads come out, they get tanked up, and they've just got no sense either way. But the majority of fans respect the fact that Davis Keeler-Dunn did what he did. He deserved the opportunity. He took it. I think probably could have been more quickly dealt with at the time. There's about a month when nobody knew what was happening. That was the club negotiating, presumably for a best possible deal. And the money at the end of the day goes into the pot. It's not about saying, well, we must buy some new players with it. The club has to balance its books, and that's the reality of a small club. And we have, if you take a championship side, that one of the better paid championship players will cost its club as much as the turnover for Mansfield Town Football Club in a year. That's a ridiculous disparity in wealth. We're not talking about premierships now. We're talking about somebody playing for West Brom or Sheffield United. It's ridiculous. So I think we have to accept that where we are is where we have to be, and and success this year for us has got to be surviving another year in this league and then going forward again next time. And I think we're in that position. It's just the injuries that's giving us a headache at the moment. Clough could never have anticipated having 10 players out.
But we have this every year, though, don't we?
I mean, yeah, we do. We've had 3 consecutive years of injuries, and there must be something else happening, but we don't have any luck. Let's put it down to that. I think we're recruiting players who are available because they've got a checkered injury history, and Luke Bolton is a perfect example of that. Perhaps we wouldn't get him if he wasn't injury prone. And the same with Roberts. Personally, I don't think we'll see Roberts playing a Stag shirt again.
Save that for after the break. The Roberts conversation, just in case you're going to jump onto it.
No, I'm floating.
There you are, yeah.
But there's one thing we shouldn't be doing is recruiting players with an injury history. It's just, I'd sooner have 2 fit players than 3 players who have got injury histories. You're better off with getting the 2 players. I mean, when does it stop being bad luck? The injury problems. It's season on season on season. It's bad. It's naive recruitment. I don't know if there's something still wrong with that training ground. There must be. But to me, there comes a point. It stops being bad luck, and it just becomes bad practice. Something's not right, and it needs getting to the bottom of, because it's just ridiculous, and it scuttles us and it cripples us every year, and it's so frustrating. And but Craig's right. Someone like Luke Bolton, good player, but if he's never on the pitch, what is the point?
Should we be touching him? Should we? We should not have even been touching him. I know that Nigel Clough rated him for from his previous appearances against us in his career, but with an injury record like his, we should not have been touching him at all.
Think about, if you were buying a car, would you buy a car that's had loads of problems? No, you wouldn't. To me, it's like players are assets. It's the same idea. What is the point?
The only counter I can say to that is, if it's free, which Luke Bolton was, Nigel Clough would buy it.
Yeah, but
anyway,
it engages a registration place, though, doesn't it?
And he's not playing for nothing. These players.
That's true.
We don't pay transfer fees, generally speaking, at this level, but what we do is pay attractive enough salaries.
Yeah.
And that's how it works. And there's a little bit of money behind the scenes for the agent and sometimes a signing on fee. It depends on the contract. But we're not in the business of signing players for huge amounts of money. We never have been. And that's the way we are. I just say that January is a notoriously bad time to do business.
Certainly is.
The damage was done in the summer because of the recruitment that has turned out to be iffy, and I think to go into January expecting to overturn that is optimism over expectation. I don't think the players are. If the players are worth having, by and large, they'll stay where they are. If they're available, there's usually a reason. And if we're going to take chances with players that are available for a reason, whatever that reason is, either they haven't got form, they're not fancy, they've fallen out with the gaffer, or they've got a checkered injury process, then we need a bigger squad to allow for that.
I think, like any line of business, though, you've got to take a calculated risk, don't you? You can't just keep doing this stuff on the cheap. And football's as ruthless as any business. We can't just keep treading water trying to be clever and do things on the sly, because we'll just get relegated eventually. We've got to, in a measured way, take a little bit of a risk. Obviously not jeopardise the future of the club, but we've got to take a bit more of a risk than we are at the moment if we're going to, one, stay in the league and two, progress. Because at the moment, we're just waiting to get relegated unless we show a little bit more ambition, for me.
More on that after these.
Protect what matters most with Actifire Limited.
Your trusted local fire safety experts in Nottinghamshire. Proud sponsors of the Mansfield Matters podcast. From fire extinguishers and alarms to emergency lighting, pat testing and risk assessments, they've got everything you need for your business to stay safe. Affordable, reliable, professional. Because when it comes to fire protection, there's no room for compromise. Call Actifire Limited today or visit actifire.co.uk. Be ready, be safe, act now. Actifire Limited, proud sponsors of the Mansfield Matters podcast.
We're the Mansfield Matters crew, making podcasts just for you. Some show up, some disappear, but the Stags bring us all here. Through the ups and downs we stay, talking Mansfield Town every day.
You're back with the show for the fans, by the fans. Why? Because Mansfield always matters. Thanks for joining us on this Saturday evening. Yes, it's Saturday. You're not sure what day of the week it is? Saturday. The 27th of December. We've got a game on Monday night, and then next Friday, so Thursday, then Sunday. Oh my God, I ain't got a bloody clue what's going off. Anyway, as always, come and have your say on your team. Lots of you getting involved with the comments tonight. Let's pick a few of these out. Before the break, we were talking about injured players and transfers and what we might potentially do in January and things like that. Well, I think this could be the quickest answer to a question, Clive. Do you think Clough will be given anything to spend in January?
Yeah, but not what. It depends what you mean by anything. He has a budget. And the club will have a degree of flexibility, and the circumstances will drive that. But he won't do anything out of character. You won't go and spend £1 million on a player.
I do feel like that's what some people are expecting us to do, Jim, to go and spend 300,000-400,000 on a player, and get a big money signing. We're not going to do that.
No, but I think what have we got? The 21st biggest budget in the league. Is that right?
Lowest, I think, is
we're the third from bottom. I think, yeah.
So 21st, and as I understand it, there's typically historically there's a good correlation between what your budget is and where you finish in the league. Yeah. Now, if you look at it like that, Nigel Clough's working miracles, isn't he? One for keeping us up last year, and for being 17th in the league now. He's not going to keep doing that on the 21st budget. Eventually, your luck will run out, and I think we've got to give this guy more help. And I'm not saying we're going to spend millions of pounds. We're not in that league, so to speak. But I think like I said before, we've got to be a bit more ambitious than we are. Give him the 16th biggest budget. Give us a chance, because I think eventually we're going to come unstuck, hoping that he can work miracles with a relegation budget, and because that's what he's doing. And I think
you see, Jim, that's nothing to do with transfer fees. That's pure payroll we're talking about.
I imagine it's the whole thing, though, isn't it? It's the whole.
No, the amount of money we're spending is based on what we're paying players. Buying players in the first place doesn't figure in those, and selling players doesn't affect it either. So I think he is doing better than this payroll would suggest statistically he should do. What he's done successfully against the background of the problems we've already spoken about at length is he just get the team playing together, and they do seem to want to play. And I think that's not true at every club. And you can throw money at it as much as you like. And obviously we can see the phenomenon of of clubs coming down and bringing huge salaries and costs with them. It doesn't make them a good team when they come down. I think you've got to be very careful about just thinking the solution is money.
Yeah, I think.
Let's put it this way: had Roberts been available to us and we got the money to buy him for £500,000, would we have spent £500,000 on Roberts?
No.
I mean, we might have spent some money on him, and then you've been saying, well, that doesn't stop him getting injured, and it won't do. And we have to say that we secured Roberts on the basis of taking a risk, and that risk, I guess, is ours to take. And it just means that when we have the phenomenon of injuries that we have at Field Mill, then we have to find another way around that, and that's either having some really good youngsters coming knocking on the door, they're not quite ready yet by all accounts, or having a bigger squad. I'm not quite sure the rules permit that.
I'm not sure. I don't see the point, though, do you? Because you can only get registered 22 players or whatever it is. So I don't.
Well, you can only register X amount of players that are over a certain age. You can have as many players as you want as long as they're under a certain age. If they're younger players, they don't have to be registered. They don't count towards your registration, which is why last year we signed Ben Quinn on the books, because he didn't count towards it. I think that's why we got. I think Kyle McAdam doesn't count towards it, but the other two do. I think I'm not quite sure where Max Dickoff sits either, but yeah, we can have as many players as we want, but it's all about age and experience then.
But I imagine what a player can command wages wise will have a lot to do with their injury record as well. If they're always injured, they probably can't ask for as much money. Now, if he's got a bigger playing budget, he can get better frees, can't he? Because most of what we do deal with is frees. So if he's got more money to spend, for his wages budget, he can attract more desirable frees. Or the chairman's going to have to put his hand in his pocket. He keeps going on about getting to the Championship. Well, you're going to have to write a few checks, John. I'm going
to defend that a little bit, because it's not like we haven't spent money on players under Nigel Clough. We spent money on Will Evans. We spent money on him.
I'm talking about in the league, in the company we're in, though, Craig. It's a League Two, yeah, I agree. But in League One, that's what I'm saying. It's in the league that in the company we're with. Where do we want to be?
It's what I find funny is he's in the insurance game and we take a lot of risks, which is very funny indeed. But that's what football is. Sometimes it is a risk. It is a lottery. It's like playing the postcode lottery for a year and spending £12.50 or whatever it is a month and not winning a single penny. But the month you cancel your direct debit and stop, you win £1 million. Your postcode wins £1 million and you don't win. Your neighbours do. It is a massive risk. And to be honest, let's be fair about this. Actually, the risk that we've taken, yes, they've massively backfired on us in some respects because of the timing of those risks. They've all been at the same time. I've just been looking through the break there. And of the 11 players we've signed up until this point, 4 of them were in the squad yesterday. 3 of them started. 1 was on the bench. 1 only signed really because we needed an extra body early sort of September time in Max Dickoff, and he was on the bench. The other 3, obviously, Liam Roberts, the goalkeeper, Ryan Sweeney, the captain, and Nathan Mariah Welsh were the 3 which started. But you look in there and you think, well, we say that we've not replaced Lee Gregory. Well, we had, because we managed to sign Tyler Roberts on loan, but unfortunately for us, he got injured, and he got injured 7 games ago, and in those 7 games, we've really struggled, because what we've not learnt, Clive, is, like last season, we're not a team, we're a side that relies too heavily on one player. When Tyler Roberts was playing, he made a huge difference to us in terms of the way we played, the way other players around him played, the results we were picking up. Since he was missing at Northampton, won 1, drawn 1, lost 5, and we've plummeted down the table as a result. The risk that we're taking now is we probably presume we're paying a percentage of his wages, if not all of them, on loan from Birmingham, which, if we're paying all of them, is going to be a lot of money anyway. Do we gamble on waiting until he gets fit? If he's out for the rest of the season, well, we need to get rid and send him back. What do we do with it? Because if we then go and get another player, there's nothing to say that we'd do the same thing, pay for a player to come in, and knowing our luck, pick up a pen, straight sprain the wrist and be out for 6 months.
Yeah, then we could sign Harry Kane tomorrow, and then he could be injured for the rest of the season. There's no guarantees with any player, the phenomenon at Phil Mill is that you can bring a player that has no track record of being injured, and within weeks is injured for 6 to 8 weeks at Phil Mill. That's just the irony of the whole thing. There is no solution to this, by the way, apart from hang on in there until the players that are now missing are able to come back and contribute. But it just seems to me there's a wave of them at the moment. We're not drifting back in ones and twos. They're all in various states of unavailability. Roberts, I think, is a phenomenon. We're missing him like crazy, but he is the highest paid player according to the same stats that put us in 21st in the league spending. He's the highest paid player we have. And that's frustrating for everybody, I'm sure. And I think we have, and I'll go with Jim on this one. We've gone for the cheap options rather than saying, well, we've spent a lot of money on Roberts. We need to spend another similar amount of money to get another quality player that's got championship experience. We're all the best managers in the world. People sat around on their sofas tonight watching this. We all know how to do the game better than the club itself. We don't have to do it, though, do we?
No, that's very true. There's lots of ins and outs in there. But I want to pick up on this from Ben in the comments, who says, winning clubs are good at 1, developing players, 2, scouting early talent, 3, buying in talent. I'd argue we aren't good at any of those things. I'm going to caveat that a little bit. And I think, 1, developing players, I think we are good at developing players. What we're not good at then, at the back end of that, is actually letting them go and cashing in on said talent. You look at the likes of, maybe look at Bailey Cargill for a prime example when he came in. He had an all right career, but he wasn't probably hitting the heights what he wanted to achieve. We've developed him by playing him week in, week out. He's become a real good asset for us. In that first season, he filled in at left back a number of times. He's a good commanding defender. What we probably should have done, realistically, is sold him and cashed in on him to do that. I think there's probably a couple of other examples in there as well of developing players and letting them go. Lewis Reed's probably another one. Obviously, he's just signed a new contract. I'm sure the club will announce it properly when the ink is dry, along with Reece Oates. That's another debate for another day. But again, we're probably protecting our stock a little bit on that rather than letting a club come in and pick him up on a free in the summer. Scouting early talent. Now, you see, again, I think we are okay at this, but I think the problem that we've done is, for one reason or another, that talent has not emerged for. It's not quite come off for one or two reasons. For example, Keanu Bacchus is a talent, but for one reason or another, it didn't work at Mansfield for him. Whether that's because Nigel Clough tried to play him at right wing back, whether that's because he was living away from home and had a young family on the way. There's lots of variables which could slot into that. Little Nobby Welsh, there is a footballer in there somewhere. It might be minuscule, but it is in there somewhere. So, and we've spent time on scouting him and done that. Will Evans, we spent time on scouting him as well, and we went and put a bid in, which then goes on to point number 3, buying in talent. We did do that, but we do it within our means. So I think it's more about looking at the parameters of that a little bit, Jim, and going, well, actually, we are good at developing players. We just we're too scared of letting them go and getting the backlash on that. We'd rather get an extra 2 or 3 seasons out of them. But yeah, also, as Ben adds on that as well, you can give plenty of isolated examples, but no sustained examples of success over time. We literally got promoted out of League 2 into League 1. We're now setting ourselves up to go forward. I don't know what more success you want. I'm a little bit also, I'm easy to tickle and rant here, but yeah.
I think
Before I say something I'm going to regret.
What comes to my mind is regards to developing players. Yeah, I do think we do develop players, but I don't think our manager particularly trusts young players. And
Sorry,
they do.
Jim, can I cut across you?
Of course you
Martin's comment. If you want Cargill, so there's no ambition again. That is not the point, Martin. That's not the point I'm making. The point I'm trying to make there is that as a club like ours, where we're self-sufficient, we have to raise funds through players. Bailey Cargill is probably the one out of the group who is going to bring in the most money. I'm not saying that I want to sell him. I'm saying that if we want to bring in money like we brought in for DKD, then he's the obvious choice. That's not about me saying that I've got no ambition. That's about setting the club up to sustain themselves in League One. Yeah. Sorry, Jim.
You're right, Craig.
No, I'm riled.
Well, the points that spring to my mind are developing players. I think we do. I don't think our manager trusts young players. And to be fair, which could be disappointing, but they have shown on occasions that they, in the cut and thrust of senior league football, they're not particularly ready. So I can see why he doesn't trust them. As regards buying players, well, I think, again, the whole world comes down to money. If you give him a relegation budget, what do you want him to do? And as regards selling at the right time, I actually think we've sold pretty well. You look at Davis Keeler Dunn, we got for 25 grand, we sold him for 7 figures. That's pretty good business. Hawkins and Lapsley, we sold for a big profit. I don't think we've done bad with selling, to be fair. But again, I say it again, it all comes down to money. If you give him a budget, a failure budget, really, a budget to fail, what are you expecting him to do? And I feel for Clough on this one, I really do.
I do question. Sorry, Jim. I do question where people want us to be like this season.
Yeah, exactly.
Surviving. Have we advanced from selling those players? How have we advanced from selling those players? We've stabilised in League One. We're trying to build and sustain. What do you want us to do? Yo-yo up and down the leagues?
I think the disappointing thing is last season we scraped it, didn't we? And this season was supposed to be more comfortable, and that's the disappointing thing, is that we didn't think we'd be saying the word relegation this season or flirting with it. I think we'll be okay, but it was supposed to be more comfortable. And it's just the same shit, same issues, which I think a lot of it is probably not Clough's fault. I think everyone's just a bit frustrated, but it all comes down to money at the end of the day. It does.
Clive, you're sitting there, well reserved, sort of hands in your hands, just sort of calmly taking it in.
Yeah, I think, Craig, you need to stick on a fisherman's friend for a bit. And I think...
what's his name?
Jim, stop saying it's all about money. Of course it's about money, but it isn't the solution. You've got to find ways around the limited resources a club of our size has to work with.
Yeah, but he's not a magician. He's not a magic man.
No, he's not a magician. So what he's doing is working with what he's got.
Yeah, he's doing well.
Now, if at the end of the day you believe that the club should be giving him more money to spend on players, and then you need an ownership model which is in a better position than the one we've got. I think I don't quite share the view that they've turned the club around and made it into a success. I think what they've done is minimise the losses, and I think they survive. I can think back to before the present owners, and if they hadn't been on the horizon, this club wouldn't be here at the moment, in my opinion. So we have to recognise that. There's only so many times you can be grateful for that. And I don't blow smoke up the Radford's arse for any other reason that they did do the right thing by the club that they needn't have spent any money on at all at the time we needed it. I think they've made some huge errors when it comes to managing the club, and it doesn't help them not being in the country most of the time. All those things I'll be critical about, but it's their club to use the way they want to use it for. Now, if fans don't like that, that's their privilege. And some fans will say, I won't support you because of that situation. And there's nothing that will stop me supporting Mansfield Town Football Club until I peg it, because you don't just pick and choose your club. You're born with the club and that's it. And I think most fans feel the same way. But we all get frustrated. We all get frustrated by circumstances we believe could have been avoided. I'm not sure how many of these things that we've been moaning about today could have been avoided. We took a chance. Do you not take chances?
The way sorry, Clive, just to sort of caveat that, the best example I can give of that is it's Christmas, right? And up and down the country, there will be parents who work stupidly hard day in, day out to provide for their family and their kids. but they feel the pressure to give them the best Christmas ever, to sort of, lavish them with all these presents from Santa, and will whack it on credit card after credit card after credit card and put themselves in humongous debt and struggle to pay it off over the next 12 months, only to have to do it again in a year's time, rather than paying for the means and paying for what they can afford and sort of doing things that way. It's people's viewpoints of it, isn't it? You want this idealistic thing of success after success after success. Whereas if you're just spending time with people and you just, I know I'm going around the house with this a little bit, so bear with. But if you're spending to your means and the appreciativeness of that is there, that is more valuable than someone going out and spending money that they haven't got or money that they can't afford to saddle themselves with debt to then just get this one day adulation because the bar is then raised again for year after year on year. It's all about perspective. It's all about what you want. And,
I agree with
not everyone's going to agree. Not everyone's going to agree, are they? But it is what it is.
I think you're right, Craig. I think your sentiment's right. I think part of the frustration is that the club have spun it as, it's going to be more comfortable this year. And don't forget, season ticket prices have gone up, match day tickets have gone up. And then the club have put a perspective on that we're progressing. But really, we're not. We're just holding on like we were last year. I think that's partly where the frustration is, because the club have given us a bit of a false perspective from that point of view, possibly. I think that's where a bit of the frustration comes from.
Certainly is. One more comment before we move on to podcast predictions. It's been mentioned a couple of times in the comments, and it's about younger players being given an opportunity. Keeley says younger players need the chance to learn, and I think they should get it from some of our older, experienced players. Why older, experienced players? Why we have them give them a chance? I know, Clive, you've got different views on this, and we won't spend too long on it. But, we are utilising them a little bit. They are getting on the bench. We've had some of them get some minutes more out of necessity than anything else. However, like Clough has alluded to in the past, he'd long gone from Derby by the time that academy that he put in place and they built up actually came to fruition. In 10 years' time, we may well start seeing some of that. And again, it's all about perception and patience. Some people want it yesterday, whereas actually we might have to wait till tomorrow to see it delivered.
Yeah, I'm one of those people that doesn't have a lot of patience. And I've
noticed. And so was Tim Accrington.
I thought I'd disguised it well, but the reality is the players will only develop at the pace that they're able to. The club will do what it can to support players through that development process. Then there's that huge bridge between being a really good young player, youth player, and getting into the first team picture. We haven't seen anything blossom yet on that. I don't think it can be too far away. I mean, some of the players that we saw the other night in the Arsenal game, they've got real talent. Whether it's transferable to a League One environment is difficult for someone like me to judge. I have to trust Clough and his team to make that judgment call. And there's no way that the club has got a plan to have a youth academy and a development system and then not get something out of it. So, it can't be for the lack of trying. It's simply a matter of time and individual performances. But the game's a bit more sophisticated than it used to be, isn't it? I mean, I remember young players coming in and they didn't take long to break into the squad. And nowadays, it's such a more measured progress. Everything's overanalyzed in my book. And I think that's possibly half the problem. I think managers and coaches and recruitment people spend far too long looking at stats than looking at players. But that's a conversation for another day as well. But I'd like to see at least one of these players come through and cement a place in the squad. It isn't going to happen this season, I don't think.
This just shows how impatient Clive is, by the way, because during the answer that he was given, he also texted me and said, can you get podcast predictions on, please? I want to know what happened and what the results are for the last two games. Clive, your wish, my command.
The king of the rock, who gives up, don't mess it up. I hear you say, how do you play? Win, lose or draw, then pick a score and one more thing. Pick a hero, don't score zero, that's the game. But we're not fools, this game has rules. It gets on time, you'll be fine. Remember the rhyme. Walk the best predictions. Remember the rhyme. Yes, on time, you'll be fine. Remember the rhyme. The best predictions.
Oh dear. It doesn't take much to rile me, does it, when I've got a cold? Right, let's go to podcast predictions, shall we? Right, let's first and foremost, if you missed it on social media, recap the results from the Stockport game, where 5 people predicted a 2-1 defeat. But the winner for the Stockport game was Craig Foster, who, thanks to double points, got 36 points. A huge shout out to our Nathan, who was very unlucky because he chose McDonnell as his hero to not score 0 for the Stockport game, which is usually -5 points. But of course, it was double points, wasn't it? So that was -10 for our Nathan. Chris Vincent also fell foul to double points and duplicating players. He would have been close to the top, but he duplicated his fantasy player for the Stockport game and he predicted a 2-1 defeat, but got -10 points off picking the same player, which cost him dearly. Let's move on to yesterday then. And of course, it was a great comeback. One person predicted a 3-2 win. One person. And that person with double points was Dave S., who got 36 points. The best player to pick was Reed, who got you 11 points. Hewitt and Lewis got you 8. McLaughlin got you 7. Evans got you 6. Dave, Liam Roberts and Sweeney got you 3 apiece. Fraser Blake Tracy and Little Nobby Welsh got you 1. Cargill got you nothing, whereas -5 for everybody else. Let's have a look at the table then, going into the final game, of 2025. In third place on 202 points is Chris Vincent. In second place on 203 points is Olivia Wilson. Matt Piercy is still at top of the table, 236 points. In terms of the Mansfield Matters League, well, it is us 3 that occupy the top 3. I've got 157 points in third. Jim, you're in second on 160. Clive is leading the way on 170 points. Let's see how we do for Bolton then. The final game of 2025. And because it's the final game of 2025, double points again. Yes, I think we will. Double points are up for grabs yet again. Clive, you are top of the Mansfield Matters table, which means you can predict first, please, for Bolton.
I'm going for a draw, 1-1. And my hero is going to be Fraser Blake Tracy.
Jim.
Yeah, I'm going 1-1. I'll go Rhys Oates.
I've also chosen Rhys Oates as my my player, but I've gone for a 1-0 win. I'm going to back us. So I'm going to think we're going to nick it. Then we're going to frustrate Bolton and Paddy McGuinness and all the famous Boltonian fans. And we're going to win 1-0 thanks to a Rhys Oates goal, which will, of course, be his revenge for getting sent off in that first game. As ever, if you want to play along with podcast predictions, you can do so via the link that is in the description. A reminder, you must submit your guesses no later than 90 minutes before kickoff, and you can't pick the same player 2 games in a row because you will lose points, which means if you pick the same player that you picked for the Barnsley game, you're going to lose 10 points because it's double points across the board for podcast predictions. So thanks so much for Ben for being so quick off the mark with getting those results in for me as well on Boxing Day. Clive, it's going to be a tough game up at the at Bolton, but it's an opportunity for us to go there and have a bit of a free hit. And the Mansfield Matters contingent are travelling, and previously that's been a curse, but the curse is now broken. So could we end the calendar year with a smile on our face?
Yeah, I think so. I think we go into Bolton with a bit more optimism than we might have done. I think Bolton's a bigger team to beat than Barnsley. So that's hence my caution, not going for a win. But I think the pressure's off a little bit, because had we, as I said earlier in the conversation, had we lost yesterday, it would have been all pressure. Now I think we can go away and play with a bit more freedom.
Jim, it is a difficult place to go. I know historically we've not done well there in recent years. I'm thinking back to that Hiram Boateng sending off where we were in control of the game and then we absolutely capitulated. But when we've got our backs against the wall, we've got 12 players available to us on Monday, maybe one or two more to throw in the mix. You know what Nigel Clough's like. Who knows what might happen? And backed by a good travelling Stags contingent, I'm sure it could be a nice way to end the calendar year going into, another tough couple of games, really. Obviously, we've got Bradford at home, haven't we, on Thursday, New Year's Day, and then Rotherham on the Sunday as well, who are, in as bad as form as what we are.
Well, two things come to my mind. Is when Bolton came here a couple of weeks ago, I didn't think they were very good. And I think if we had 11 men on the pitch, we'd have definitely got something from that. And secondly, I think we're more dangerous away from home at the moment. So I think we go there, positive. And like I say, it's not. There's no pressure on the game like there would have been if we hadn't won yesterday. And go there feeling kind of nothing to lose and chomping at the bit.
Absolutely. Right, guys, thank you so much for your input tonight. And thank you to you guys at home as well for getting involved in the comments. We'll try and squeeze one more in before the new year, the year ends. But if we don't, thank you for your support this year, and we'll see you on to the side. Sadly, that's all we've got time for on tonight's Mansfield Matters podcast. My thanks, as always, to the Mansfield Matters podcast panel, and of course to you guys at home for watching and for listening. As always, make sure you get involved with podcast predictions. The final game of 2025 is on its way Monday night away at Bolton. A reminder that you must submit your predictions no later than 90 minutes before kick-off, and that you can't pick the same player twice. And make sure you get it right, because it's double points, which means double points are great if you get things right, but also if you get things wrong, you lose double points as well. So jeopardy as we end the calendar year. Get involved though via the link in the description, and make sure you follow us on all things social media to find out when we're next going to be live. We'll try and squeeze one more in before the end of the calendar year as we recap on Bolton and 2025 itself and look ahead to 2026. Right, go and enjoy the rest of your festivities, and we'll see you at Bolton on Monday.
Oh my God, I'm absolutely unbelievable that we've actually been given a penalty.
Protect what matters most with Actifire Limited, your trusted local fire safety experts in Nottinghamshire. Proud sponsors of the Mansfield Matters podcast. From fire extinguishers and alarms to emergency lighting, pat testing and risk assessments, they've got everything you need for your business to stay safe. Affordable, reliable, professional. Because when it comes to fire protection, there's no room for compromise. Call Actifire Limited today or visit actifire.co.uk. Be ready, be safe, act now. Actifire Limited, proud sponsors of the Mansfield Matters podcast.